the Hypixel Bedwars tournaments. The fun, the competitiveness, the friends made along the way, and boosting, cheating, and Hypixel. Hypixel's Bedwars tournaments have been quite controversial. On one hand, they really do boost the popularity of Bedwars and bring back a lot of old people into the game. Past few Bedwars tournaments have brought back people like Technoblade and many more. However, they also have been very controversial in that they have had a lot of issues, boosting, cheating, and many more. In this video, I will be talking about the issues with all of Hypixel's Bedwars tournaments and a possible solution. Now, to some people, this may not be so relevant now, but I decided I would make a video on this since there actually is a current tournament going on right now, the TNT Games tournament. Now, before I start, I'm going to start by listing a few positives with the recent tournament. There aren't that many. Firstly, the tournament was a bit more fun than the old tournament, the 4v4 tournament, which I guess isn't so much about the tournament itself, but more just the game mode. 4v4 is just not a fun game mode, it's just two teams of 4, whereas 4v4v4 is a much more dynamic game mode, much more things can happen, there's much more, I guess, variability, which makes it a much more fun game mode, I guess. Now, that being said, this tournament was really only fun in the lower brackets. The upper brackets had a lot of issues, which I'm going to talk about very soon, but the lower brackets were pretty good actually. You could have some fun games, with your party, with your team, and it wasn't actually too bad. Now, the second positive, this isn't really a major positive, this is a very minor positive, is that there were a few less ults in this tournament because 4v4v4 is a longer game mode, games take longer, and it's much more inconvenient to finish your games and then go on an ult and play more games. You have to remember that there are 80 games in this tournament, and the games can take quite a while, especially in the higher brackets. So finishing your 80 games only to lose one and deciding that you want to try again on an ult for a better result is not such a efficient tactic, and this would be very uncommon during the tournament. A lot of the winning tournaments actually were the main accounts of these people. This can be seen even with the winning team, which was Bombies, Lovenox, Catbot, and Wolf. A common practice in this tournament would actually be that you would use an ult to lower your bracket so that you would have easier games, but this wasn't such a major issue, especially for the winners, since in this tournament, someone's calling me out for being a nick. In this tournament, higher brackets, if you won in higher brackets, you'd get more points, so the only possible way to win was to put yourself in the higher brackets for as long as possible. Now, in this tournament, there actually surprisingly were less boosters. I think this has to do with the fact that Hypixel has gotten much better at detecting boosting bans. Like, I've had friends of mine who've gotten boosted just for playing a couple of games with a cheater, but Hypixel has gotten very good at banning these boosters. I think this also dissuaded people from boosting, so that they wouldn't get banned. And the winning team, well, it's pretty confident that they weren't boosting. Unlike the previous tournaments, though, there was a lot of controversy with people like Toilus. Now, those are really the main positives. They're very few positives, but they are, I guess, some positives about the new tournament. However, now we're going to get to the negatives. Major point number 1, there was a lot of targeting. Now, this came in two ways. One, you would just get targeted. Hypixel made the incredibly smart decision of not hiding the names in the pre-game lobby. So a lot of good teams with just a lot of nicks or a lot of ranked players, could just get targeted. Now, this was before, I guess, the popularity of overlays. But if we had a similar type of tournament now, that would be a complete disaster. Even without overlays, people would still get targeted extremely frequently, and this led to a lot of issues. 12v1s, 8v4s, and 12v4s were quite common in this tournament, and that is extremely unfair, especially for less skilled teams who can't, just start winning off the bat. Now, you might say, targeting is a normal issue in 4v4, however, this is a competitive tournament, where people will resort to, I guess, less fair strategies to win. So targeting will be a much bigger issue in this tournament. Now, if you didn't get targeted this way, sometimes you could just be really unlucky and just get sandwiched. Two teams could rush you, and this happened quite a bit to me as well. This could result in you losing, getting frustrated, and more people would look to cheating to assist themselves just because they're extremely frustrated with these losses. Now we move on to major point number 2, which regards the very high number of cheaters in this tournament. There isn't really any other way to put this, there were just a lot of cheaters in this tournament. Especially in the Grandmaster bracket, you would encounter cheaters or multiple tier cheaters every single game. You'd often have to just rely on people targeting the cheaters or really campy style strategies to win. However, a lot of people would have lost, and this would push even more people to take to cheating to start to win. Stop this major staff monitoring. Obviously, I'm not going to say a better anti-cheat since opens up a completely new can of worms. And obviously harsher bans to persuade people to not cheat in the tournament. Now, items, this was quite a different issue to a lot of the different other tournaments, but the item selections were really weird. Obsidian was quite a common strategy among many players in this tournament, and if you played this tournament, you would know that. Obsidian, obviously a lot of people would go for it because emeralds are there, and maybe in normal Force games people wouldn't do this as much since, well, they're just playing casually, but in a competitive tournament people would do this. And this just resulted in games lasting much longer than they needed to, and just being much more frustrating in general. Thankfully this isn't too hard to solve, you just need item restrictions, but yeah, that's an issue at the tournament. Now there was some similar issues as well with Hypixel, like the whole party not being warped into the game, stuff like that, just typical Hypixel. So all in all, the 4v4v4 tournament, or the second one of this tournament, was not that successful. There were lots of cheaters, that was probably the biggest issue with the tournament. The items were unbalanced, there was a lot of targeting, and I think just a 4v4v4v4 tournament doesn't work, as well as a 4v4 tournament. Now I've complained about the issues, and by the way, Hollow is a fast generator now. But by the way, I've complained about a lot of the issues with this tournament, but are there any solutions to this issue? Now, actually there aren't any solutions to a 4v4 or a 4v4 or 4v4v4v4 tournament, because it's just the game mode itself that's flawed. Cheaters, those are completely different to deal with. Obviously that's to do with the anti-cheat and that other stuff, but with the tournament itself, 4v4v4 is not a great choice, or 4v4. So let us look at some potential different options. Now I'm just going to say none of these are perfect. Honestly, I think a Bedwars tournament itself, in such a big scale from Hypixel, is just not ideal. It doesn't really work. However, some different game modes could possibly work a little better than what we've seen so far. Now let's look at the first option that probably comes to mind, a 1v1 tournament. Now I am, I guess, known for winning a 1v1 tournament, and I'm gonna say this probably isn't that ideal. Now this could be better than the 2 teams of 4 tournaments, but solos firstly is not such a popular game mode among some people. It also would suffer from similar issues to 4v4, that being cheaters, boosters, ults, etc. Just saying, for these for solos and a doubles tournament, you would definitely not have 8 teams, since that makes it way too chaotic. I'm talking about a simple format where there's 2 teams. A solo tournament would probably work best like a 1v1 tournament, where the 2 teams are across each other, and this would incorporate diamonds and emeralds into the gameplay, which could make it more fun, but cheaters and boosters would dominate this type of tournament. In conclusion, a solos tournament, a 1v1 tournament, could get quite annoying with cheaters and boosters, and probably wouldn't be such a great result. Now we look at the final option, which probably holds a lot of potential, but still has its own issues. Now this is a 2v2 tournament. Now there's 2 ways to hold this. One, you could have it side by side, or you could even have this cross map, which could be interesting. Now the maps don't really work for 2v2, since I don't think the doubles maps or even the fours maps are built for a tournament. Hypixel would have to probably make a custom map that would work best for 2v2, that would incorporate emeralds, diamonds, and probably be cross map. Similar to how ranked doubles worked, but a little bit shorter probably. This tournament could be much more fun than the 4v4 tournaments, because it's a much more dynamic gameplay with the custom map, and it could also be much more interesting than 4v4v4, or much more fair than 4v4v4v4, just because there's less targeting, because there's 2 teams. The difference between 4v4 and 2v2 is that there would be much more emeralds and diamonds involved, since obviously in 4v4 you just try and win as fast as possible. There's no real resource management where there would be in 2s or solos. So in terms of the gameplay, this could actually be a much more fun tournament. However, this would also suffer from cheaters and boosters and ults, which is why, honestly, in the current state, I think that tournaments could be better, but Hypixel in its current state would not, it doesn't support tournaments that well. Bedwars tournaments just aren't really a great idea for Hypixel. This is probably just because the Bedwars tournament format that Hypixel uses doesn't work too well. Ban waves don't really work in tournaments, since by the time the ban wave actually happens, the damage has already been done. This is honestly why the best Bedwars tournament for Hypixel right now is probably no Bedwars tournament. All tournaments would have some kind of issue due to the game itself and just due to the large scale that these tournaments are held at. This is why I honestly think the best tournaments are the unofficial ones, since this is where people can screen share, there's people monitoring, and there's a small amount of people which allows people to be monitored and dealt with very easily. And that's even saying that the small tournaments ranked itself has so many issues it has to deal with. Now there is another suggestion that someone suggested. I am not too sure how this would work. This is a completely different suggestion. However, instead of holding large tournaments, a sort of season could be held prior to the tournament. Now for these seasons, perhaps just a similar format to how this works would be better, with a limit of games. And out of these people participating in this season, while, say, the Hypixel current tournament has lots of issues, yes, this wouldn't be completely fair, but the winners wouldn't be affected by this too much, since say the top 128 people or top 64, something like that, from these seasons can participate in a bracket tournament. Hypixel can obviously check each one of these participants to make sure they are legit, and it probably could be a little easier. There will still be like lots of unfair games, unfair situations, just because people could be negatively affected by the games and the seasons due to cheaters as well. But that's probably one of the most simple and less annoying ways to do this, since the top 128 can actually be proven legit and less things can happen since Hypixel can monitor this end bracket kind of thing. But aside from that, there really aren't many more things that can be done. Obviously, the main issues are cheaters and boosters. These cheaters, that honestly, in terms of cheating, I don't really think much can be done about this in Minecraft in general. This is generally due to Mojang's unwillingness to really help, I guess. I'm not going to talk too much about this since this is a completely different video topic, but Mojang isn't really doing much. And secondly, it's just that there is much more development on the cheating, the client side, than the server side. Overall, this is a problem that doesn't have many solutions. Hypixel will need to completely revamp the tournament format and obviously find some way to eliminate boosters and cheaters. Maybe the Minecraft account migration might help this, or maybe there has been some good news with Hypixel patching flying. Few fly hackers currently don't exist because Hypixel has patched flying, but honestly I'm quite confident that there will be more fly bypasses in the future. Overall, the best Hypixel tournament is no Hypixel Bedwars tournament. I hope everyone, I guess, got something out of this video, and if you did, let me know if you like more of these style of videos. I'm still working on my big video, but I decided I'd make a video on this just since there is a tournament happening right now. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.